What if I told you that right now, this very moment, there could be something sitting in your home, on your shelf, in your drawer, maybe even around your neck, and it's not just an object, it's a weapon. Not a weapon you can see, not one that bleeds, but one that drains your peace, drains your energy, drains your purpose, and here's the terrifying part, you invited it in, not because you're reckless, not because you're weak, but because you didn't know. You didn't know that certain objects carry energy, and some of that energy doesn't want to heal you. It wants to ruin you. You see, the smartest kind of warfare is the one you never recognize, the one where you don't even know you're being attacked. That's exactly how witches work, not the cartoon witches with brooms and hats. I'm talking about real people, people who use energy, symbols, and spiritual laws to manipulate, oppress, and ultimately destroy you. And they don't need to stand in front of you to do it. All they need is access. All they need is one object to slip past your guard. That's how subtle evil operates. It hides in plain sight, so today we're exposing it. Because what you allow in your space shapes your destiny, one of the most dangerous objects witches use is the cursed mirror. Now listen to me closely. Mirrors don't just reflect your image, they capture energy. A mirror that's been used in rituals, especially those done in secrecy, becomes a portal, and I know how that sounds, but ask anyone who's lived in a home with a mirror that carries something off. You feel watched? You feel drained? You avoid eye contact with it. That's not just imagination. That's intuition warning you. If a mirror has a history you don't know, or it was gifted by someone who suddenly disappeared from your life, remove it. Don't donate it. Don't pass it on, break it, bury it, seal that doorway permanently. Then there's the black candle, not just any candle, but the ones used intentionally in summoning or binding rituals. Witches burn them during curses, and once a candle has been burned for evil, its wax holds that memory. Some people keep these candles as decor, thinking it's just aesthetic. There is nothing aesthetic about a candle that was once lit with the purpose of binding your progress or silencing your voice. Don't play with fire, don't decorate with it, get it out, and then dream catchers. Yes, I said it. I know you've been told they protect your dreams, that they ward off nightmares, but hear me. Some dream catchers are handmade during specific lunar cycles for spiritual entrapment. They don't filter bad dreams, they invite spiritual surveillance. You start having strange dreams, sleep paralysis, shadowy figures in your room, and you think it's just stress. No, that's spiritual interference. That's energy being funneled in, not out. If your dreams feel invaded, remove the catcher. The fourth object is jewelry, specifically rings, pendants, and bracelets. Items worn on the body become extensions of the soul. If it was given to you and you felt your life go downhill after wearing it, that is not a coincidence. Witches know how to bind energy to objects, especially jewelry, because they know you'll keep it close. They embed spells inside charms, symbols inside carvings, and these pieces don't just sit pretty on your skin. They transmit energy into your bloodstream, your thoughts, your decisions. If it feels heavy, off, cursed, trust that. Take it off and never put it back on. You have to understand, objects are not just things. They're not just decorations, ornaments, or gifts. Every object carries an imprint. A signature, a memory of where it's been, who's touched it, and most dangerously, what it was used for. That's how spiritual warfare works, not through the obvious, not through a dramatic possession scene, but through the subtle, the silent, the things you overlook. Witches don't need to scream to cast a curse. All they need is for you to keep the very weapon they planted in your space, because if you don't remove it, they don't have to chase you. You're already within reach. Some of you are living under a fog, and you can't figure out why. Your mind feels cloudy, your energy is gone, motivation used to be your thing, and now just getting out of bed feels like a battle, and you've tried the affirmations, you've tried the routines, but nothing is lifting. That's because it's not just emotional or psychological, it's spiritual. Something in your space is feeding off your peace like a parasite. These objects don't just lie still, they pulse, they radiate the very energy they were soaked in. You think the necklace was just a gift? You think the antique mirror was just a stylish find? You think the handmade charm was just interesting? But every single object becomes a channel, either for healing or for harm. And if it was designed, blessed, or conjured for destruction, guess what it's doing in your home? It's executing its mission, quietly, relentlessly. You don't need to see it moving to know it's working. You just need to look at the patterns in your life since it arrived. That's the evidence, that's the fingerprint. You feel blocked, anxious, short-tempered, emotionally flatlined, not realizing you're under attack because you invited the battlefield in yourself. This is why discernment isn't optional, it's survival. You don't just protect your home with locks and alarms. You protect it with spiritual intelligence. You protect it by asking, what energy did this object come with? What assignment is it carrying? Who gave it to me? And what was their real intention? Because once you start looking at your environment through spiritual eyes, you stop being a victim of random misfortunes. You start becoming the authority in your space, the gatekeeper, and that's the moment the enemy loses access, not because the attack stops, but because you finally saw it for what it is. It's just a mirror, right? That's what you tell yourself. It's just glass. It reflects your face, helps you get ready, hangs silently on the wall. But what if I told you that mirror is doing more than reflecting? It's remembering. What if I told you it's not just bouncing light back at you, but holding on to energy that was never yours to begin with? Witches know this. They know mirrors are not neutral. They know mirrors can be transformed, charged, with spiritual intent. Because a mirror, once used in ritual, becomes more than decor. It becomes a portal, a passage, and if you don't believe it, look around. Look at the houses where people feel constantly watched. Look at the rooms that feel heavy for no reason. Look at the mirrors that you avoid making eye contact with. That's not random. That's not paranoia. That's your body picking up on what your mind can't process. There are mirrors out there sitting quietly in bedrooms, bathrooms, antique frames that were used in dark rituals to summon or spy. Mirrors that were gateways during occult ceremonies, and now they hang in your home like innocent wall art. You didn't know the history, so you brought it in. You didn't feel the shift until weeks later. The anxiety, the insomnia, the feeling like you're not alone even when no one's there. You start second, guessing your own instincts, but let me be clear, your instincts are not lying to you, they're screaming. They're trying to get your attention. That mirror is not passive, it's activated. When you stand in front of it, it's not just reflecting your face, it's interacting with your energy. Some people feel drained after looking into certain mirrors. Others feel triggered, emotional, unsettled. That's not vanity or insecurity. That's spiritual static. You're not looking into your own eyes. You're looking into something else's design. And if that mirror has been in the presence of witchcraft, if it has absorbed incantations, if it was used to channel spirits or direct curses, then it's carrying that frequency right into your home. This is why spiritual security matters. Because just like you'd never leave your door wide open for a stranger to walk in, you shouldn't leave energetic gateways open for forces you don't understand. It doesn't matter how beautiful the frame is. It doesn't matter how expensive or vintage it looks. If that mirror feels wrong, if it shifts the atmosphere when you're around it, you need to act. Don't just move it, remove it, destroy the access point. Because once the enemy has a portal, it doesn't need permission. It just needs you to stay ignorant, and once you know better, once you feel the weight and trust it, you reclaim control, you seal the opening. And you close the door that was quietly draining your soul. Black candles. People burn them thinking it's just for mood, for style, for aesthetic. You walk into homes where they're lined up like decor. Centerpieces on dinner tables, sitting beside bathtubs, placed on altars without a second thought. But let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Black candles are one of the most common tools used in witchcraft, and not for healing, not for peace, but for warfare, for curses, for binding, for control. And once a candle has been burned with dark intent, that wax doesn't forget. That energy doesn't evaporate when the flame goes out. It lingers. It embeds itself in the atmosphere, and worse, it sticks to you. You think it's just a candle, but what you're looking at is a spiritual magnet, one that's been ignited in rituals you weren't part of, but now you're carrying the consequences. See, witches use black candles to speak to spirits, to anchor intentions, to direct energy toward a specific target, and many of those candles get passed around sold, repackaged. You have no idea what you're bringing into your home. All you see is a dark, sleek candle. But what you've invited in is a tool designed to tether your mind, limit your movement, mess with your emotions. You start to feel off, angry for no reason, disconnected from your goals, unsure of your decisions. It creeps in subtly. That's how darkness works. It whispers before it shouts. I've spoken to people who had black candles in their space and couldn't figure out why they were stuck, why everything felt spiritually off, why the energy in their home shifted after that candle was lit, even once. And here's the truth. The fire didn't purify, it activated. It set into motion whatever assignment was attached to it. That one moment of lighting, it was enough to open a frequency you never meant to connect with. That's how spiritual contracts are made. Through agreement, through participation, through ignorance. You don't get to claim peace and power in your life while keeping items meant to pull you into chaos. You can't burn a tool used for curses and expect blessing to flow freely. That's not how energy works. You want to clean your atmosphere. Start with the candles you burn. Start with the symbols you normalize. Start with the things you thought were harmless but were designed to harm you. Because once you realize that not everything trendy is safe, not everything popular is pure, you stop being passive and you start getting smart. And the smarter you get, the harder it is for darkness to touch you, because now you see it, now you feel it, and now you remove it. People love dream catchers. They hang them above cribs, over beds, in cars, thinking they're shielding themselves from nightmares, from bad energy, that they're beautiful, meaningful, spiritual. But what they don't understand is that not all dream catchers protect. Some of them are crafted with one purpose: to trap you, to monitor you, to pull your energy into a spiritual net you can't see but you feel. Because here's what witches know: your dreams are vulnerable territory. When your conscious mind sleeps, your spirit opens up. That's when attacks are easiest. That's when you're least guarded. And a dream catcher, depending on who made it and how it was made, can become a spiritual surveillance device. Some aren't just art. Some are built during specific lunar cycles, infused with chants, symbols, or blood. You think it's just thread and feathers, but it's a spiritual blueprint, a frequency trap. People keep them in their homes and then wonder why they wake up exhausted, why they start having violent dreams, seductive dreams, disturbing images every night. They blame stress, they blame their job, but it's not external pressure, it's spiritual invasion. It's warfare through your sleep, because sleep isn't just rest, it's recovery, it's restoration. And if something is poisoning your dreams, it's poisoning your power. Some dream catchers hold the exact opposite of protection. They hold intention, dark, focused intention to confuse, delay, and wear you down from the inside out. You start waking up angry, hopeless, lost. And you don't know why. You think it's just you. You think something's wrong with your mental health, but this isn't just psychological. This is strategic. If the enemy can't destroy you when you're awake, they'll try to do it when you're asleep. That's how witches gain access. They don't knock on your door. They hang in your ceiling, in your bedroom, inches above your head. So ask yourself, where did it come from? Who gave it to you? Who made it? What happened after you brought it into your home? You want peace, but you've got spiritual interference right above your head. You want clarity, but you've allowed a trap to dangle over the gateway to your soul. Remove it. Don't just take it down, destroy it, because if it was made with the wrong intention, it's not catching your nightmares, it's creating them. It's time to wake up and realize that even the things that look innocent can be the most dangerous, especially when they hang in silence, doing damage while you sleep. Jewelry is one of the easiest ways witches gain access to you, and you don't even see it coming, because when someone hands you a ring, a necklace, a bracelet, you let your guard down. You think it's just a gift, a kind gesture, something shiny and harmless, but jewelry carries energy, it holds memory, and most dangerously, it clings to your body. You wear it against your skin, over your pulse points, near your heart, your throat, your head, the very places that channel life and identity. That's not a coincidence, that's by design. Witches, manipulators, energy workers, they know the body is a circuit, and anything you wear becomes part of that circuit. So when they hand you a blessed pendant or a lucky bracelet, what they're really doing is installing something, a frequency, an attachment. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes it's control. Sometimes it's a binding spell that slowly chokes your confidence, dulls your intuition, or wrecks your relationships. You put the jewelry on and suddenly life gets foggy. You lose clarity. You feel anxious, irritable, unexplainably tired, and you think it's stress. But look back. When did it start? What changed the moment you wore that piece? And let me be very clear, it's not about how expensive it is. Darkness doesn't care if it's gold, silver, or plastic. It cares that you're wearing it, that it's touching your skin, that you never took a moment to ask, where did this come from? Who gave it to me? What energy is tied to it? You wear it day after day, and you don't even realize you're walking around with a curse hanging from your neck. People think curses look dramatic. No, the most effective ones are the ones you never suspect. The ring you never take off, the charm bracelet from an ex who was emotionally abusive, the necklace from a friend who disappeared the moment you started to shine, and here's what happens. You keep the item, and with it, you keep the attachment. The energy of the person, the power of their intention, it stays connected to you until you break the tie, until you take it off, recognize it for what it is, and get rid of it, not just return it, destroy it. Because if someone sent it to harm you, the last thing you want is for it to stay whole. If your energy changed after putting something on, listen to that shift. Don't doubt yourself. That tightness, that discomfort, that unease, that's not in your head, that's your spirit trying to protect you. Jewelry should make you feel stronger, lighter, more grounded. If it makes you feel small, invisible, or off balance, it's not yours to wear. And once you realize that, you stop being a passive target. You start becoming your own line of defense. You stop accessorizing with your enemy's tactics, and that's when the spell breaks. You see them on shelves in movies, on social media, voodoo dolls, effigies, little human-shaped figures made out of cloth, wax, hair, sticks. Some people collect them out of curiosity. Some buy them for luck or protection. Others are drawn in by the mystery, the taboo, the dark aesthetic. But let's be real. These aren't cute. These aren't quirky. These are dangerous. These objects aren't made for display. They are made for control. They are tools, highly targeted tools, that witches, occultists, and manipulators use to bind you, monitor you, and spiritually violate you without ever stepping into your space. Because here's the truth, you don't need to be physically present to be spiritually attacked. You just need a piece of representation, something that links back to you, something that carries your likeness or your energy signature. And that's exactly what a voodoo doll or effigy does. People joke about this stuff. They make memes, post videos, talk about sticking pins into dolls, but it's not a joke to the ones doing the rituals, not to the ones who take time to build the image, chant the words, burn the candles, smear the oils, and tie the knots. It's not a game to them. It's a spiritual operation, because the moment a doll is created in your image using your name, your photo, your hair, your handwriting, it becomes a substitute for you. And the attacks? They begin there. You start feeling back pain for no reason, chronic fatigue, emotional breakdowns, health issues doctors can't explain, doors closing in your career, relationships falling apart overnight. And you're thinking, what's happening to me? But what's really happening is you're under siege, and the war is being fought through something that looks like a toy. And maybe you didn't make the doll. Maybe you didn't even know it existed. But that's the problem. You don't know. You have no idea what's been made in secret, what's been buried, what's been placed near your home, or worse, what's been handed to you. Because some of these dolls are gifted, wrapped as souvenirs, sold as art, passed off as cultural relics. You take it home thinking it's exotic, mysterious, powerful, and it is powerful, but not in your favor. The moment you bring it into your space, you invite whatever is attached to it. That energy doesn't stay neutral. It starts working. It starts binding your thoughts, polluting your emotions, turning your peace into confusion. And the worst part, you blame yourself. You think you're falling apart because you're weak, because you're failing. No, you're not the failure. You're the target. I've seen it too many times. People who were fine one day and spiritually dismantled the next. All because something entered their home, a doll they found in a thrift shop, a figure they bought while traveling, an object passed down in the family, and nobody questioned it. Nobody asked what ritual it had seen, who had held it, what was whispered over it. But energy sticks, and spiritual energy doesn't care about your ignorance. It doesn't pause just because you didn't know better. It moves, it spreads, it attaches. And before you know it, that little object sitting on your shelf has become the very anchor dragging your life into the ground. Now here's where most people go wrong. They assume that if the object looks innocent, it must be harmless. But you need to understand, spiritual warfare is never obvious. It's not red eyes and spinning heads. It's not loud or theatrical. It's subtle. It's strategic. And that's why it's effective. The more ordinary something appears, the more likely it is to be overlooked. That's how evil works. It hides behind charm, beauty, familiarity. That's how voodoo dolls work. They are concealed in plain sight. You won't find them labeled as tools for curses. No, they come labeled as decor, gift, luck charm. But what they're really doing is serving as access points, spiritual GPS markers, that allow someone miles away to influence your life from a distance. Now maybe you've already thrown something like this out, or maybe you're still holding onto it because you think it's just superstition. But if you feel like something's been off, like your home has tension, like you're being watched, like your thoughts have become heavy and dark out of nowhere, you owe it to yourself to take inventory. Look around. Don't just look at what's pretty. Look at what's energetically wrong. Trust your gut. If something in your home makes you uneasy, if it gives you chills, if you avoid looking at it, if you felt worse since bringing it in, that's not a coincidence. That's your intuition doing its job. And listen to me carefully. You don't have to see a curse for it to be real. You just have to feel the effects. And the moment you do, you have a responsibility to act. Don't just box it up. Don't donate it to someone else. Don't throw it in the trash where another innocent person can pick it up. You destroy it. You cleanse the space. You break the agreement. You sever the tie. Because here's what happens when you allow these objects to stay. They don't just impact your mood. They begin to affect your identity. You forget who you are. You forget what you're capable of. You live in a constant state of spiritual exhaustion, not realizing you've been carrying a burden that was never yours. You need to understand how powerful you are when you reclaim authority over your space. When you walk through your home and say, "This doesn't belong here, this doesn't serve my life, this opens a door I didn't consent to," and you get rid of it. That act alone, making a conscious decision to remove what's been spiritually sabotaging you, is one of the most powerful forms of self-protection, because witches don't need to touch you, they don't need to curse you face to face. They just need you to hold onto the object, to keep it close, to cherish it, because then you're agreeing, even if silently, to carry the weight of their intention. So ask yourself, what's in your home that doesn't belong to your spirit? What's sitting quietly on your shelf that was made in darkness? What's in your space that's been speaking in silence, influencing your thoughts, shifting your energy, cursing your progress? You can't afford to ignore this. Not if you want your mind clear, not if you want your home safe, not if you want your life unbound. This isn't paranoia. This is awareness. This is discernment. This is you standing up and saying, "Not in my house. Not in my spirit, not anymore." You don't have to be a spiritual expert to take action. You just have to be willing to trust your gut, honor your discomfort, and make the hard decision to destroy what's been secretly destroying you. Because at the end of the day, this is not about dolls, it's about domination. It's not about objects, it's about access. And when you cut off the access, when you destroy the entry point, when you stand in your authority, everything shifts. Your mind gets clearer, your emotions balance out, your sleep returns, your peace rises, because the attack ends when the agreement ends, and that begins the moment you choose to stop tolerating what was never meant to be in your life in the first place. Books, not just stories, not just pages, not just paper and ink. Some books are portals, literal spiritual gateways, and most people have no idea they're keeping a curse tucked neatly into their bookshelf. They see it as knowledge, curiosity, art. They don't see the danger, but I'm telling you now, certain books are not meant to be read, not meant to be opened, not meant to sit in your home where your children sleep, where your thoughts form, where your peace is supposed to live. Because some books are alive with intention, and not all intention is good. Witches use books the way warriors use weapons, carefully, strategically, with purpose. A book of spells is not just words. It is ritual, it is frequency, it is energy that activates the moment it is read, or even just touched. Some of these books are written with the explicit goal of opening spiritual channels, summoning spirits, reversing blessings, controlling emotions, or bending will. And when you open them, even out of curiosity, even for research, even just once, you engage with what's written, you give it energy, you give it access. I've seen people keep books on their coffee tables that were used in occult ceremonies. I've seen New Age books filled with hidden incantations disguised as affirmations, and they'll say, "Oh, it's just for decoration," or "It's just a conversation piece." No, it's a contract, a spiritual agreement you didn't even know you were making. And you wonder why your thoughts feel clouded, why anxiety leaves in your chest, why your relationships keep unraveling. The truth is, it's not just psychological, it's not bad luck. You opened something in the spirit and it never left. And let's talk about energy for a second, because even if you never read the book, just having it in your environment can shift the atmosphere. Books that were written, used, or energized during rituals carry that imprint. You can feel it when you walk into a room, that tension in the air, the coldness, the sense that something is wrong even when everything looks normal. That's what happens when you house something spiritually charged. It broadcasts a frequency, and your body picks it up before your brain can explain it. You want clarity in your home, then stop entertaining content that was created to confuse your spirit. You want peace in your mind, then stop keeping books that were designed to summon chaos. If a book is built on manipulation, on channeling forces you don't understand, then it is not a harmless object, it's a spiritual threat. And here's the part that most people ignore. Once a spell has been activated, it doesn't shut off just because you close the book. That door stays open until you deliberately close it. And sometimes the only way to do that is to get rid of the book completely. This isn't about fear. This is about awareness. You don't need to be superstitious to be smart. You just need to start asking, what am I bringing into my space? What am I exposing my energy to? What spirits are tied to the things I casually place on my shelf? Because not all information is empowering. Some of it is entangling. Some of it is encrypted with spiritual codes that disrupt your peace, your direction, your protection. You don't have to believe in witchcraft for it to affect you. You just have to engage with the object, and the object does the rest. And don't think it only applies to old, dusty books with strange symbols. No, many of these books are marketed to the masses, repackaged with trendy covers and modern language. Some are even found in mainstream stores, but beneath the branding is the same old deception. You open the pages thinking you're getting power. But what you're really doing is giving it away, because true power doesn't need a spell. True peace doesn't require incantations. True protection comes from clarity, and clarity means removing anything that carries an agenda of manipulation or control. If something doesn't sit right with you, if it makes you anxious when you touch it, if your sleep gets worse after flipping through it, if your home feels heavier after it arrives, listen to that. That's not your imagination. That's your spirit speaking louder than your logic. Don't dismiss it. Don't rationalize it. Act on it. Take that book and get it out of your space. Don't donate it. Don't pass it on. Destroy it. Because once you break the agreement, once you remove the object, the fog lifts. The energy resets, and you finally get back what that book was designed to take from you. Your focus, your authority, your peace. There's something most people don't think twice about, and that's the art hanging on their walls. Paintings, portraits, tapestries, images that just sit there, right? Just visuals, just decoration. But let me ask you, why do you feel anxious every time you pass that hallway? Why does the air shift when you sit in that room? Why can't you sleep when that picture faces your bed? Because let me tell you something that people don't want to talk about. Art is not neutral, and witches know that. They know that imagery is powerful. They know that symbols, especially when painted or drawn with intention, don't just sit still. They speak, they activate, they invite. Art can shift an atmosphere faster than words. And when it's created during rituals, or with dark emotions, or charged through occult symbolism, it becomes more than canvas and paint. It becomes a transmitter, a spiritual antenna, something that connects your space to a frequency you didn't sign up for. But here's the problem. You don't see it. You just think it's abstract, or edgy, or vintage. You think that weird eye staring back at you is part of some modern expressionism. You think the snakes, the distorted faces, the chaotic swirls, they're just style. But that style may be speaking directly to your soul without your permission. And you feel it. You do. You walk into that room and your chest tightens. You don't want to sit near it. You avoid looking at it. Or worse, you don't even notice it anymore because you've adapted to the discomfort. You've become numb to the oppression, but your spirit knows, your body knows, because the energy of that painting was never meant to inspire you. It was meant to unsettle you, to distract you, to keep you energetically off balance, and that's exactly how spiritual attack works. It's not always violent, it's subtle, it's beautiful, it's seductive, and that's what makes it dangerous. Some artists create from a place of darkness. Some channel pain, rage, bitterness, or worse, cult guidance, into every stroke, and if that art ends up in your space, then that energy is now living with you, watching you, influencing your mood, polluting your atmosphere. You wonder why the arguments in your home always happen in the same room, why your thoughts race when you try to work, why you feel heavy and uninspired. Sometimes the culprit is framed, nailed to your wall, and called art. And let's not forget, The spiritual realm uses symbols to communicate: eyes, serpents, triangles, masks, distorted bodies. These aren't just creative choices. These are codes, visual contracts, markers that carry meaning in spiritual warfare. You may not understand the symbols, but your soul does. That's why it reacts. That's why you feel off, because you're looking at something that was created to pull your energy, not lift it. You're staring at something that doesn't belong in a space meant for peace and protection. And this is not about living in fear, it's about being awake, being smart, being sovereign in your space. You don't need to be an expert to feel when something's wrong. You just need to pay attention. Ask yourself, what emotion does this painting stir up in me? What changed in this room after I brought it in? Because the answers are there. You've just been trained to ignore them, to downplay your intuition, to favor aesthetics over alignment, but you can't afford to decorate your environment with symbols that were designed to sabotage your spirit. So go look, really look. Don't just see the colors and the brush strokes, feel the energy behind them. Let your intuition tell you what your eyes can't. If something makes you feel watched, if it disrupts your peace, if your body reacts to it, don't justify it, don't excuse it, remove it, because peace is not just about who you let into your life, it's about what you let into your space. And the moment you remove what was never meant to protect you is the moment your clarity returns, your spirit breathes again, and your home becomes what it was always meant to be, a place where no darkness is welcome. Clothing isn't just fabric, it's not just style. It's not just something you throw on because it looks cool or edgy or different. Clothing holds energy, it holds memory, and depending on where it came from, how it was used, or what it was made to represent, it can become a direct spiritual access point to your life. And most people never think about it. They'll wear second-hand jackets, strange symbols on t-shirts, outfits gifted by people who hated them, or worse, clothes that were used in rituals, and they'll wonder why they suddenly feel sick, depressed, disconnected, or angry. It's not just fashion, it's frequency. Witches and occult practitioners know how powerful clothing can be. In many rituals, garments are used to transfer intention, to bind, to curse, to cover someone in spiritual darkness without them even knowing it. All it takes is one piece of clothing, infused with the right energy, handed to the right person at the right moment, and now you're wearing a curse like it's couture. You've opened your spirit to something you didn't see coming, because you were focused on how it looked, not what it carried. Do you know what kind of energy lingers in a shirt worn during a ritual? Do you know what type of spirit can cling to a dress that belonged to someone involved in the occult? It doesn't matter if you wash it. It doesn't matter if it was a great deal at the thrift store. What matters is what it was made for, and if it was made to entangle someone spiritually, it will still do that the moment you put it on. That heaviness you feel, that confusion that rolls in like a fog, that unexplained exhaustion, sometimes it's not mental or emotional, sometimes it's what you're literally wrapping yourself in, and then there are the symbols. The hidden meanings, the sigils printed onto clothing that most people don't recognize but your spirit does. You wear that trendy symbol not knowing it represents death, rebellion, conjuring, or worship to something dark. You wear it over your heart, your back, your chest, and then you wonder why you feel spiritually exposed, why attacks come easier, why peace feels harder to hold on to, because not everything printed on a hoodie is harmless. Some of it is deliberate, some of it is a spiritual message written in plain sight, and the moment you wear it, you agree with what it says, even if you don't know the language. I've seen people start to lose themselves after accepting clothing from exes who were abusive, jealous friends, even family members filled with resentment. They think it's just a gift. They think it's a gesture of goodwill. But in the spiritual realm, clothing can be used as a point of contact, a literal open door. And when you wear something given to you with dark intention, you're not just honoring the gift. You're partnering with the energy that came with it. That's why your piece left the day you wore it. That's why everything started falling apart after you started wearing that particular item. You didn't just change your outfit, you changed your spiritual covering. This is why spiritual discernment isn't optional, it's essential. You don't need to fear your closet, but you better start discerning what's hanging inside it. Ask yourself, where did this come from? What was happening in my life when I wore this last? What do I feel when I touch it? Because your body knows, your spirit knows, but you've been trained to override that voice, to ignore the red flags, to normalize discomfort in the name of looking good. You've been dressing yourself in oppression and calling it style. It's time to wake up. It's time to clean house, and that includes your wardrobe. If you feel darkness when you put something on, if it reminds you of a toxic time, a twisted person, a bad memory, let it go. If it carries a symbol you don't understand but you feel uneasy every time you see it, let it go. If it was gifted by someone who did nothing but tear you down, let it go. Burn it if you have to. Because when you strip off what was never meant to cover you, you take your authority back. You reclaim your peace, and you stop carrying other people's battles, curses, and intentions on your back like they belong to you. Some people keep things in their homes that are quietly destroying them, and they don't even realize it. They think they're keeping memories, mementos, nostalgia, but what they're really keeping is spiritual baggage, emotional time bombs, and in some cases demonic strongholds, personal items from toxic exes, love letters from someone who was never good for them, jewelry gifted by someone involved in witchcraft, even locks of hair, dried roses from abusive relationships, or personal objects used in rituals of manipulation and control. These things aren't just sitting quietly in a drawer. They're holding energy, and that energy is still alive in your space. You know how you can smell someone's cologne and suddenly remember everything they ever made you feel. That's memory. Now imagine what happens when you keep physical items that are charged with emotion, especially items that came from people who had spiritual authority over you. You're giving those people continued access to your energy. You're giving the enemy legal ground to remain in your life through something as simple as a ring, a bracelet, a note. Witches understand this. That's why they use objects. That's why they charm gifts, infuse them with intent, and smile when you accept them. Because now you've made a spiritual agreement without even opening your mouth. It sounds harmless, doesn't it? That necklace from your ex. That keychain from someone you've tried to forget. That little box filled with memories. But every time you open that box, or wear that item, or even just touch it, you reopen a spiritual portal. You tie yourself to people and seasons that were meant to be broken off. And then you wonder why you feel stuck, why you can't move forward, why healing seems so far away. You can't climb into your future if your arms are full of things cursed in your past. People hold on to these objects thinking they're holding on to love. But if that love came from someone who controlled you, abused you, manipulated you, or carried darkness, you're not holding love. You're holding a weapon, a cursed thread still tying your spirit to someone you should have been free from a long time ago. And every time you walk past that drawer, every time you see that item tucked in your jewelry box, something in you stays small, trapped, bound. You don't know why, but you feel it. You've got to start asking yourself hard questions. Why do I still have this? What spirit did it come with? What energy is it keeping alive in my home? Because objects carry presence. They carry memory. They carry imprint. And when those objects come from dark places, whether it's through manipulation, lust, revenge, or witchcraft, you're keeping a bridge open to something you've been trying to run from. And you can't pray your way into freedom while holding hands with the very thing keeping you bound. I've seen it too many times. Someone finally starts healing. Their peace returns. They feel stronger. Then suddenly the nightmares come back. The anxiety creeps in. The emotional roller coaster starts again. And when we look deeper, there it is. A little box under the bed, a ring in the drawer, a photo album they couldn't let go of. And once it's removed, peace, real peace, as if the air itself changed, because it did. Your home is a reflection of your spirit, and when you cleanse your space, really cleanse it, not just physically, but spiritually, you're declaring war on anything that doesn't align with your purpose. You're saying, I refuse to let the past own even a corner of my future. You're cutting the final cord, and when that happens, doors open, clarity comes, and your soul finally finds room to breathe, because you're no longer haunted by the things you kept in secret. You're free and you did it with your own hands, so now you know, these objects, these innocent-looking gifts, symbols, decorations, clothes, keepsakes, they're not always just things, they're access points. Open doors, spiritual agreements that you never realized you signed, and the longer you keep them around, the longer you give the enemy permission to operate in your life unchecked. This isn't about fear. This is about awareness. You don't need to live paranoid, but you do need to live prepared. Discernment isn't just spiritual, it's survival. It's time to walk through your home with eyes wide open. It's time to touch every item and ask yourself, is this lifting me, or is it lowering me? Is this empowering me, or is it weakening me? Is this clean, or is it cursed? And if you even hesitate to answer, that's your answer. Get rid of it, burn it, bury it, break it. Do whatever you need to do to remove that darkness from your life for good. You don't need to keep proof of a painful past to validate how far you've come. What you need is clarity, strength, and freedom, and none of those live in the shadows of demonic attachment. You are not weak. You are not defenseless. You have authority, so take it back, starting with what's in your own hands. You've been carrying too much for too long. Let it go. Cleanse your space, seal the doors, and finally, walk in peace like you were meant to.